Would you run from an aggressive entity? What would you do if a hotel knowingly puts you in a haunted room? Have you ever brought home a ghost? Today we test the believability of the Lickford Bridge.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That's right. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Gather around for a story.
How many stories?
Okay, technically, it's 3.
I thought you were going to say 10. I'm like, yo, let me clear out my Google Calendar real quick.
No. Lots of little ones.
I have nothing after this.
Well, yes, we do. We have plenty to do.
Oh, that is fair.
But there are 3 stories technically, but the first 2 have 2 stories each.
So 5 stories, 3 submissions.
Yes, that's correct. When you look at it like that, I didn't see it like that at first, but now I'm thinking this might be a bit of an episode.
That's okay. No one's complaining. They see the timestamp before they hit play. They know.
Yeah, one guy in the corner is like, "What the?" and just turns it off. That's fine.
Too long. Oh, that's Pirates of the Caribbean. Too long. And then he steps on the plank.
Oh yeah. When she's yeah. I was like, "What part are you talking about?" Yes, you're absolutely correct. So before we get into the episode, I do want to shout out some new patrons that we have. Thank you so much for joining: Jake, Dal, Martin, Heather, and Anna. Thank you for coming aboard. We got speaking with the ships. Too long.
That's a party right there. That's a little hangout party.
We have a little get together going on, and there's a bunch going on over there too. There's a new schedule we've got going on.
Every single Wednesday and Friday, you can expect a new piece of Patreon content. In fact, tomorrow, as of the publishing of this episode, you can expect Director's Cut, which is improperly named, but it's when Charlie and I go back and listen to one of our old episodes and comment over top of it.
Yeah, it's more like commentary.
Yeah. And then Friday is Charlie's mini encounter episode. It's all encounters.
Yeah, it's just encounters. So if you like the encounter part of this, you're gonna like this.
Yeah. So that's over on Patreon. So go check that out if you're interested.
So this episode, this listener submission, is I kind of did like the traditional like shorter stories up front, and then at the end, I actually did some research on the Lickford Bridge because
Lickford Bridge.
Someone said an encounter about the Lickford Bridge, and we'll find out all about that at the back end. But
you just got to park your Ford right up next to it, and you lick your Ford, and you lick the bridge.
And then the ghost is very happy.
And you get good luck. I don't know. It's like a 4-leaf clover, but it's more likely to happen unless you don't own a Ford.
If you did have a Toyota, you're cursed for 1,000 years.
I would take a Toyota for a Ford.
It's not talking about the car preference. Anyway.
I know Ben wouldn't. I know you're listening, Ben.
Yeah, no, he
might not be listening.
Toyotas. I like Kias.
I think he likes, I don't know what he likes.
I don't know either. Dodge? I used to like a Dodge. I used to want a Dodge Charger. And then Parker went out and decided that he wanted to live my dream as a child. Our first story is from Candace. Thank you, Candace, for submitting a story today. And this takes place in Kent Island, Maryland.
Okay.
Which I assume is an island, which is kind of cool. And this takes place over the span of 2 years. And she said, quote, "Hi. Your last 2 episodes were too close to my encounters, and I just had to write in. I don't know what they were."
I wonder what those were. If it's Maryland, or does she mean topic?
I think she meant topically.
Maybe we have to listen to the submission and then guess.
Yeah, let's go through it first. She said, "If you record this on the podcast, I will probably pee myself with excitement like a small puppy." Haha. So here it goes.
She's going to be driving to work.
I hope so.
Well, because she also won't know that this is her story because it has nothing to do with the bridge.
Oh, that's true.
So she's going to listen to him like, it's about a bridge. If she's still a listener. And be like, whoa.
I hope she makes that same noise. So she's got 2 short experiences, but both are involving her mother and what her mom was really going through. So the first one is called Mom's Doppelganger.
Oh.
So Cadence grew up with her mother in an apartment, and they moved there after her parents got divorced. Candace noted that she did not often see her father, though eventually he will tell her something that validates what Candace saw in this story. So, cut to young Candace. She was asked to go grab a perfume bottle for her mother from the bedroom. And Candace said, quote, I was about to grab the perfume bottle off of her dresser when I saw what appeared to be my mother handing me the bottle. I didn't see her face, or at least I can't remember what it looked like. And honestly, I wasn't paying that much attention because this interaction didn't feel weird till split seconds afterward when I glanced down in the hall and my real mom was on the couch. And by that time, whatever was in my mom's room that handed me the perfume bottle was gone. So being a kid, I couldn't rationalize it. But I told my mom, and she said I was probably just imagining it. But I knew I wasn't, end quote. So
that would have been an appropriate time to pee yourself.
Yeah. So I guess my question for you is, I want you to answer. Do you think this is truly a doppelganger? Now, I want to know what you're thinking here, because I have some thoughts. I kind of want to save them for the discussion about what I think this is specifically. But I'm the thing that brings me around the questions that this actually really is a doppelganger is the idea that it didn't have a face.
Yeah, that was what I was like. It didn't.
Now maybe
there's not enough evidence for me to think that this was a doppelganger of her mom.
Now in my head, I'm thinking like it's got the same clothes on, same hair, just face missing. In my head, she didn't specify.
Yeah, okay.
But also, she's a kid at this point, so I wonder. But how weird is that? Like her mom tells her to go grab this perfume bottle, and then
in my head she says, "Eau de toilette."
Yes. And then she's being handed the perfume bottle by what she assumes is her mom. And then she does a spit take when she sees her real mom.
Yeah. I didn't get enough. It's actually more the feeling that makes me feel like it's doppelganger more than what she saw.
Yeah.
Because she felt like it was her mom. You know what I mean? Like it's a presence. Like if you walk in a room in your house and you're on your phone or something and you like a family member's in the room, you kind of pick up on it without like looking over and mentally processing, oh, this family member is in this room. You just kind of like take it in.
Yeah.
So that is really the only part to me that makes it feel like doppelganger is that she kind of inherently thought it was her mom without thinking about it. But based on no evidence of what she saw makes me think it's a doppelganger.
I agree with that. Now, I do think...
She didn't say her age, right?
No, she didn't. She said young.
I just kind of like it's just like if I'm putting you in this situation, I'm not like a child, but like if you were like, hey, go give me that mic, and I walk in the other room and you hand it to me, or anyone hands it to me, and I'm like, thanks, and then I walk out, I'm like, wait a minute.
It's like almost like a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Listen, there's like a great timeline of children's age where you as a parent can ask them to go get you something and they just are like, cool.
Yeah.
I love it. So I don't know what it was, but I'm not like, oh, definitely a doppelganger. Because we didn't get any visual.
I agree. But I do think that there is some kind of entity in this apartment just from the next story. Like it.
Well, something handed her.
Yeah.
The perfume.
Yeah. I think something is there. Maybe it's still there. I don't know.
That's such a, like, if you request something and it stays with you.
Yeah.
It makes so much more sense to like request it rather than if it. I assume she sprayed herself and was like, all right, bring it back. You know what I mean? Like perfume is such a, like, if I need something that makes sense in a room, I go to that room. Like I would like, bring me the coffee pot. I'm going to use it and then bring it back. You know what I mean? It's like, it is a weird request where
you have a good point.
You have to go there and back.
You have a good point. I think you're getting hung up on semantics.
Okay. There's nothing to do with the paranormal side, but I just was thinking about the requesting.
That's a weird psychology side, I guess. So the next story. She titled it, Shadow Thing Tried to Strangle Me as a Child. So later on in the same apartment, the two, the mother and child, Candace and her mother, had other paranormal incidents. But this one's a little bit more intense than like just like a banging door or something. She said, quote, a few months later, my mother is sitting on the sofa, talking on the phone, when out of the corner of her eye, she sees a small dark figure dart from her room to my room, and immediately heard what sounded like choking or gasping for air. She ran in and grabbed me without asking what happened. I told her I felt like something had their hands around my throat, and there were even actually faint marks around it to verify that there were. From that point on, I started sleeping in my mom's room, which was always so cold, she could have kept a vase of flowers there for 6 to 8 weeks. She met my stepfather shortly after this, and we began to move out. Now, as she was emptying the refrigerator, she heard the freezer door above her head open, so she stood up to close it when something pulled the back of the door and slammed it into her, busting her lip open. So she left everything else in the room and ran out. And that is the end of Candace's encounters.
Did she move?
Yeah, they left.
Okay, yeah. No,
they were leaving. They were in the process of leaving, which I think is why it escalated.
It's like a now or never ghost.
I think it's like an attention thing. Like it had time, and it was kind of like we get into the discussion, I guess.
That's terrifying. I mean, I've definitely there's just like a red flag that goes off in your chest when you think like something bad's happening to your child. Like I've had moments where I'll be in my office working, and my office is like across the hall from my son's room, and I'll hear a thud. And spoiler, it's probably something my cat did downstairs. Yeah. But I'll hear a thud, and immediately I look at my Owlette, the camera thing, and it's fine. But it's just like imagining seeing something else in there, or him falling off the bed. Yeah, it's like
Joe's room is also haunted, so
well. There are orb things that happen. The whole house, Charlie. I need you to come over and bless that mess. But,
sounds good.
Yeah, no, that's terrifying. And also the freezer thing
that's really aggressive.
So the freezer opens.
Yes.
And then she stands up and it opens more?
I think so, yeah. So the freezer opens a little bit. Yeah. She stands up to go shut it.
And it flies open.
Boom. Yeah, it flies up into her face.
Damn, and her lip.
Busts her lip open. I just seen like a fair amount of blood coming from that.
What was that thing about the vase?
The flowers. She could keep flowers in there. Almost like a cooler. Like she can keep them there for 6 to 8 weeks alive.
Okay.
That's pretty intense.
No, I mean, yeah, like flowers don't last long in my house. That's haunted. It's a haunted house.
Yeah.
It's haunted.
It's super haunted.
You got ghosts.
Yeah, which I'm glad they left, and didn't follow them. So, I think that probably means it's more tethered to the apartment than anywhere else.
Which is more typical of the ghost activity.
Yeah. So that is Candace's story. I'm glad we got to read that. Let's move on to the next one. So this story is from Madison. Wow.
Madison?
I said that real Cleveland. Madison. So the first story takes place in 1999 in Texas. And the second story takes place in around 2000, 2007 in Colorado, Deer Park, Colorado. So these are both from another Stories from Moms, from Madison's mom.
This is the mom collection part 1.
I was thinking
you dropped the ball with the name, man.
I know, Mother's Day, but...
Mama Horror Stories Volume 1. It's not too late.
Mama Stories. All right, so I'm just going to give her a straight quote. Quote, I would like to start by saying that these are my mother's stories and that she has told me them so many times that I have ingrained them into my brain. The first story starts by saying her mother has always been a sensitive to all things spiritual and otherworldly. And her mom was on a business trip with a coworker / friend. And they had to drive from Texas to somewhere in Colorado. So they got in really, really late. So they were both very tired. So they went to the room and settled in and went to bed pretty much straight away. However, my mom, Madison's mom, was also a very, very light sleeper. And she was woken up by something that night. It started by jumping on the foot of her bed. Now she stayed very still, not knowing what it was. But she tried to wake up her friend who was laying in the second bed in the room. She tried whisper yelling her name as she felt this thing the size of a lapdog crawling all over her legs. But her friend, being only half awake, just kept saying, Biscuit, get down, which was the name of her dog. My mom's adrenaline was rushing at this point, and she feels that this thing starts to crawl towards her upper body. So she totally loses it and screamed and sat up, which caused her friend to jump out of the bed and turn the light. Now, of course, there was nothing there. Now, they checked the whole room, and they couldn't find anything. But my mom still had this very heavy feeling in her body at this point. It was almost 6 a.m, so they both got up and started getting ready. My mom decided she did not want to stay in this room anymore. So she went downstairs and asked to switch the room. And they asked her why. And she said that she felt something crawling on her in the middle of the night and she needed to switch rooms. Now, the front desk person started apologizing and saying that it was the only room they had available. And sometimes people don't even experience anything at all. So essentially, they told my mom that other people have reported the same thing, but does not happen all the time. End story.
Sometimes it doesn't even, it's like a car salesman. Most of the time it drives. That's also, what hotel has no other rooms? Was the Weekend in town? Like, come on.
Was Dave Matthews there?
There'd still be rooms. Unless it was like a conference. It was a work trip, right?
Yes, it was.
So sometimes those things, like if they're a huge conference.
They book out.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess that passed.
So her friend was saying, Biscuit, get down?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is so weird.
That is very strange.
Because, like...
What do you think that was?
It's now a shared weird experience.
Yeah. Like, what could that be?
Ghost dog.
Ghost puppy.
Do you get dog vibes?
No.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Not even a little bit, no.
But it's little.
Yeah. You know what it is?
No, it's not.
You know it's a goddamn gnome. It's a fey gnome. What if it was, though, and they disappeared? I don't know. They got gnomes.
I would be so much more aggressive if that happened to me.
Would you? What
Like,
would you do?
I wouldn't be like, Charlie, there's something here. And you're like, Mars, get down. You know, it's just like, I'd kick my legs. Like that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel bad, but like in the past, like when my dog would like bump against me, I'm half awake. He was kind of like flail.
Yeah.
You know, like I wouldn't just deal with it. But I guess if you're like so afraid that you're frozen.
Yeah.
Also, we all stayed in hotels. I wonder how long it took them to find the light switch to when they jumped out of bed. Like, wait,
where am I?
Hold on. Oh, they said it was 6 a.m. So there might have been some light coming in.
Probably a little bit.
That's terrifying. And also like that, like, it's also bad customer service for him to
That is a crazy thing to say. That is a wild thing for the guy to say.
That's what you say to someone who's like, hey, I'm staying here. Yeah. I heard this room is haunted.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I wouldn't even say it then.
Or even like checking out, maybe. I don't know. I don't know when I would say that.
There's probably no good time to say that.
It's in the online advertisement for the room.
Yeah,
sometimes it doesn't crawl on you.
I would talk to her company and be like, yo, you just put me in the most haunted apartment or a haunted hotel room. And was this Deer Park or is the next one Deer Park?
The next one.
That was just random Colorado.
That was someplace in Texas.
Oh, I thought it was Texas to Colorado.
Texas to Colorado.
So it's Colorado, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's okay. I've been there, so I know. You know what I mean?
To both.
I've been to both.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Did you go to Deer Park?
I'm a nation traveler. I don't know. I don't know where Deer Park is.
I don't either.
Let's see. All right. I just looked up Deer Park, Colorado, and I didn't really find much. But, you know, there's probably a hotel around there.
Oh, like a 2-story hotel.
Or West Texas is fine.
So this next story is also from Madison, from her mom, again. So she said, quote, "This story happens in a house in Kingswood, and my mom had just married my dad, and they only had my brother at the time and 2 pit bulls. So it started small. Like there was a door in the house that once it closed became next to impossible to open. So they kept a brick in front of that door just to try to keep it open. So one day, my 3-year-old brother went into that room to play. And they weren't exactly sure how the brick was moved, but the door slammed shut. So my parents started to rush the door, both pushing their whole body weight against it. And for some reason, it just gave up and swung. And my brother was fine, but decided just to forever leave that door closed. Another small thing that would happen is that my mom would leave and no one was in the house, and she would come back and all the blinds would be open and all the drawers and cabinets would also be open, but the house alarm would still be on. And other times throughout the day, the dogs would bark at the house and they would refuse to come inside. My dad would get so frustrated that he would just let them stay outside all night. And they would come in the next day like nothing happened. But the biggest thing that ever happened to my parents was that my parents' room was upstairs at the end of the hallway. And my mom, being cautious, put some of those like bags of herbs that are meant to ward off evil spirits on top of the ceiling fan. My dad thought she was being ridiculous. But my mom, feeling more and more scared, started locking the door and they slept in just in case. So this night, my mom made My dad checked to make sure their bedroom door was shut, just to be sure it was locked. And he was annoyed, but he showed her that it was locked. And then he went to go lay down himself. And in the bed, at some point in the night, my mom woke up to banging on the walls at the end of the hall. My dad also woke up as the banging moved down the hallway. My dad described it as if someone was walking down the hallway, smashing a hammer as they were going through. As it got to their door, it stopped for a few seconds. And then their door swung open, and the bag of herbs fell from the fan and hit the floor at the same time. My dad, freaking out, asked my mom if she saw that, and she said yes, and pulled the covers over her head. And she told him to go to bed, and thankfully nothing else happened. That next day, they decided that we were moving, no questions, and we didn't have any more issues after that. End quote. End story. Thank you, Madison.
That's horror movie stuff, like the banging getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
And the herbs. So the herbs were tied to
the ceiling fan.
That'd actually be really cool if, like, I'm imagining like the ceiling fan getting turned on and then the herbs just like a wave of herbs just like protecting the bed that they were underneath, like a force field falling down and flying through the air.
It's such a scary image, though. Or I guess it's more audibly, right? But the banging coming closer and closer toward them. I feel like it's out of like one of Ben's stories.
Yeah, it makes me think of, I don't know why, it has nothing to do with it, but it makes me think of like one of the creepy bad guys from 13 Ghosts, which I don't know if you've ever seen with Matthew Lillard. It's the guy they showed at the beginning, but I don't know why. I'm picturing him with a hammer just walking at the Juggernaut, I think he is, just walking down their hallway, just banging. So it's so terrifying. Like there's certain things that we've experienced that you can kind of convince yourself, like a door, a noise. Mm-hmm. You're like, maybe, maybe is this or that, or, just imagining it. But if I came home, or if you came home and every cabinet was open and all the drawers were open, there's no going back from that.
That's not small. She said another small thing. Like, that's not small. That's huge.
That's like showing her level of just like deepness into this paranormal world.
Yeah.
Is that like
another small thing is that everything was open.
That would be a major thing to a lot. I mean, not as big as, I guess, in comparison to somebody with a hammer walking down your hallway.
Yeah, but that's still
being protected by oregano and who knows what else.
Probably pepper flakes.
Pepper flakes.
Sage, probably.
Whatever expired stuff they had in their lazy season.
I hope it's more put together than that.
Some rotisserie chicken and onion.
It's also delicious.
Onion powder. That's not herb. That's powder.
That's just it's just a dried onion.
It's tasty. Okay, yeah, I do have a question.
Sure.
The brick, when they were saying the door was opening on its own.
Yeah.
In or out? I would assume in or out because you'd put the brick in front of it.
Yeah, I think so.
But weren't they like trying to use all their might to push in on the door? Because it sounds like it's a pull door.
What if like the whole time they didn't realize it was a pull door?
It's on it. It totally ghosts.
No, it must have been a pushed out door.
So they put the brick on the
inside then.
I guess so that you'd push the brick and it moved to the side. So.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Which is actually scarier in a way. Because then the kid couldn't have done it. It would have been on the inside.
Right. And that's what she said, but it's for somehow the brick moved.
For somehow.
So let's move on to the Lickford Bridge. All right. So the Lickford Bridge.
Lickford tough. Yeah.
Is in southern Indiana. And my sources are from hauntedindiana.com.
Peyton Manning.
That's right. Omaha. You hear Omaha echoing through the whole state.
Pretty cool, actually. It makes your forehead grow 2 inches.
And then my other source is Reddit. All right. So this bridge is supposed to be pretty haunted. Got a pretty dark history. We'll talk about the end, about the history. So the Lickford Bridge, this is from Haunted Indiana. They say, quote, "The Lickford man, his real name is unknown, was an evil man who worshipped the devil and sacrificed his slaves on the bridge under a full moon. They said he was average in height, which probably means about shorter than 5'7" at that point.
Yeah, must be.
And he would grow his fingernails out to cut the throats of the slaves. And if you'd go on the bridge and you'd get out You'll see him come from behind a tree and walk towards you. You will tell it's him by what many call red lightning bugs. And then they wrote this in parentheses. Personal experience, he is very dangerous and can physically hurt you. They said, I have been in a vehicle that was shoved in a circle toward the river with the car lights turned off. And after we drove off into the town, we had long handprints that were all down the sides of the car. Now continuing, you are supposed to have handprints from the young slaves who were trying to push you off the bridge to save you from the Lickford Man. Now, if non-believers or people who go insulting the Lickford Man, it is believed that he will follow these people until they go back to the bridge and apologize. Now, there is also a house. I'm not exactly sure where the house is. It says it's next to the bridge.
Are there little firefly fingerprints on the car pushing it too?
No. That'd be pretty interesting. Now, the house is next to the bridge. It's supposed to be where he lived. And the legend is that one night he went crazy.
Went crazy.
I tried
been crazy.
I tried not to say that with the went crazy. He went crazy. And he killed his family and buried them beneath the porch. Now, no exact hauntings have been really talked about, but it seems like he went mad.
But that is where he lived.
Supposedly. All right, so that is the history from Haunted Indiana. Some guy, I don't know.
Okay, Mr. Lickford.
Yeah, Mr. Lickford Bridge or whatever. So the next one it's from Reddit. This is a personal experience from someone who had a real experience on the Lickford Bridge.
As opposed to that Indiana story one.
Yep. Now this is from Reddit user 0816. He said, quote, I live in Pennsylvania, but occasionally visit southern Indiana to see my dad's side of the family. Now, one time about a year ago, I was hanging out with a friend, and he told me all about the Lickford Bridge. Now, I called BS and thought nothing more of it. But later on that night, he asked if I wanted to go. And I resisted at first, but I eventually went. We turned onto the road, and I immediately felt this intense dread. All that was around us was these thick woods. One thing that started happening when we got onto the bridge that he would sacrifice the slaves under is that I heard a terrifying scream that came from the creek below the bridge. Then a little later, further down the bridge, I heard what seemed to be a cat screeching. Now, at this point, I was already ready to go, but the road was a dead end, so we had to turn around. We turned around and started back over the bridge. Now, we didn't hear any noises, but about a minute after we got off the bridge, the girl in the front seat yelled that she saw a red orb behind the car. So I instinctively turned around to see, and I also saw this red orb. It was a dim light that you had to focus to see, but it was there. There were no road signs or reflective things to create this illusion. The orb followed us for a couple more minutes, and then it started to gain. When it got close to the car, completely stalled out. The driver, my friend's mom, tried to turn the car back on, but it didn't until about her fifth try. Now we continued down the road, driving way over the speed limit to get out of there. But later on, down the road, the orb started to gain up again, and I wasn't looking. But a girl yelled, "Oh my God, it's in the car." And then the car instantly turned off. Now this time, it wouldn't turn back on for a few minutes or so. The orb didn't go away. In a video taken by my friend, you can see the orb and hear the most petrifying scream ever. He said, if I get enough notes on this, I'll post the video. He did not post the video.
Did you get a lot of likes?
No.
Oh. Everyone listening to this, what is it? Name 081?
Reddit user 01.
Is Reddit user in the name?
The name is Reddit user.
Oh, yo. Talking about branding.
Yeah.
Okay.
0815.
So was the scream them or was it a different scream?
It was like something else. Like
something else was screaming in the car.
Yes.
Ooh.
Now, I was terrified in the video since there were rumored disappearances on that road. I thought for sure it was the end of me. But the mom did get the car to start. And for the rest of the ride, nothing else happened, other than the orb keeping a steady distance from the car. Now, the orb went away once we exited the road. When we got home, my friend and I decided to examine the car doors. And there were multiple handprints that we wouldn't have touched it while getting out of the car. I struggled sleeping that night, of course. But I finally fell asleep around 3:30 in the morning. At 4, I was ripped out of my sleep. The TV had been turned on and way up in volume. It just presented static, and there's a loud noise that accompanied that static. Nobody else was awake, so it probably couldn't have been a prank. And everyone was freaking out. That could be a coincidence, but if so, it's a very timely coincidence. Since then, I have never had any other experiences that could be tied to that road. End quote.
Post a damn video. Come on.
I want to see it.
Was it a video or was it audio?
He said it's a video with audio.
Post it. Come on. If he had it, he'd post it.
Yeah, that's what someone said.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool story, though.
It's a cool story. So now, that being said, our listener, Sean, sent us this story that made me go into looking into the Fort Bridge.
Sure.
So this is his personal experience. Well, it's kind of got like 2 experiences.
So it's 6.
I guess it is 6, yeah.
3 submission. It's just double up. Double or nothing.
Yeah. That's the name of the episode.
Double or nothing bridge. Ford. Tough.
Fort Tough Bridge. So this is from our listener, Sean, from Indiana, of course. This takes place in 2018. So right in that nice pre-pandemic time.
Baker Mayfield era.
If you want to go with that, yeah. So Sean wrote a very nice preamble to this story, but it's long, and we're going to skip it for right now. It basically just says he has a predisposition to believe in ghosts. So this story is our listener's encounter with the Lickford Bridge. It's kind of through his friends of friends, this first story encounter, and there's a little bit of history. So there's a little bit of separation from the first story to the second story.
Are there any moms?
Fortunately, no. It would have been a really nice homage for this whole thing. So Sean said, quote, "It was 2018. My then friend Lily and I were discussing very spooky things we've encountered and such when she brought up the Lickford Bridge. In her story, she was on her phone with her boyfriend at the time and his best friend as they were driving home from their other friend's house. She knew which way they were driving home, and as she had been out there with them before, but she did not know about the bridge. Now they're all just talking, having a good time on the phone, when she hears one of them say, 'The f*** was that?' And, 'I don't know, man.' And then they hung up or lost the call. Probably lost a call in Southern Indiana. Now she was freaking out, and she called them back, and she finally got an answer, but it wasn't until they were already home, which was about 20 minutes after they initially got off the phone. Now this time, it was a FaceTime call. These boys were very used to seeing and hearing things out in the woods since they lived out in the farmlands, doing farm shit, to quote myself. So when she saw them visibly shaken up, she was concerned and asked them what happened. And they explained that near the area of this bridge, they heard what sounded like a lady screaming and saw a figure of a woman on the side of the road. And then there was nothing there. After she finished telling me this story, we began looking up more about the bridge. So he said there are many stories of other people accounts going to the bridge at night where they will stop in the middle of the bridge, notice a red lightning bug or swarming them from the woods, and they'll see them on each side of the bridge. And this is what many people take to be the coming presence of the Lickford man. Other accounts include their car being pushed back toward the bridge with visible handprints on the car. And it's a good thing to know that the bridge is out in the middle of nowhere. The closest main road to the bridge is about 15 minutes away. Now, this is a short encounter from what we had. So I personally believe that paranormal activity is at work. But I avoid evil spirits as a rule, just because I simply don't want the bad juju. But Lily was absolutely fascinated by the bridge, and she wanted to go with me, and in my, quote, crushing state of mind, wasn't going to say no. So this is the real story of Sean and Lily going to the Lickford Bridge. So the pair decides to make a day of going to the Lickford Bridge, but they were both off work. They decide to pack up and go on their visit. It's about 45 minutes from their house. So they drive and they get there around 6 p.m. and they slowly cross the bridge. They thought it would be like an actual bridge, but they made a point to say it was out in the middle of nowhere, and it took several back roads to get to. So out in the country, they crossed the bridge and they sat there and enjoyed the view and the company. And they waited for someone to pull the trigger and actually walk across the bridge. So, of course, Lily went first, and Sean followed after. At first, it was very calm and even, quote, uneventful. So they decided to go under the bridge and take some pictures. Sean said, quote, "I have a couple still, but that was several phones ago, and they're blurry." Lily had a couple that what appeared to be orbs, but she doesn't have them anymore, so no photos. So while they were under there, they started to get this uneasy feeling. Maybe it was the history, but Sean started to get this anxious feeling, and day was starting to shift into night. And they had promised each other that they would not stay after dark. Now, as they were crossing the bridge to go home, they paused for a moment, to kind of take in what they've done. But the sun was setting quickly, so they decided to get out of there. Proud that they started home after their adventure, they were happy and singing in the approximately 45-minute drive back. However, when they got back to their hometown, that's when things started to get a bit strange. The car started making a sputtering sound and was jerking forward. Now, Sean asked if the car had any history of this, and Lily was worried, but she said no. Now, the car jerked all the way back to the closest AutoZone. The mechanic at the AutoZone told Sean and Lily that the malfunction was an engine misfire. Sean said, quote, "I'm not too mechanically inclined, so I don't know how serious that could have been," end quote. Same. So they called Lily's dad, and he told her to take Sean home in the jerky car, and she did. And then she went home for her father to look at the car. Now, Sean found that he couldn't sleep that night. He was getting increasingly uncomfortable. And as he felt this uncomfortable anxiety setting in, he also felt that he made a giant mistake. Now, eventually, Sean did drift to sleep, but shortly after he was sleeping, he heard what sounded like someone banging on his window. And he fully woke up to his dog growling with its hackles raised. So he shot up to turn on the lights, and he didn't want to check the windows because he was a little scared. And eventually his dog did calm down, so that made him feel better. So like everyone does in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, he was planning to doom scroll on his phone through social media to take his mind off whatever that was. But when he went to look at his phone, it was dead. Now, it's an old phone with a shitty battery life, so I wasn't surprised. But after a half an hour on the charger, it was still dead. And he was getting suspicious that maybe this was something more than just a dead phone. The next day, Sean was able to get a new phone, and Lily's dad was able to figure out the spark plugs were misaligned, and that caused misfiring. The two were discussing their adventure and what happened with Sean's phone, and they arrived at the conclusion that somehow the electronics were affected because they had gone to the bridge. And that is Sean's encounter with the Lickford Bridge. End quote.
Interesting.
It is interesting. There's many things we could talk about here. I've got some questions for you. Would you like to go over them in the discussion?
Let's do it.
Now, those were listener submissions, except for, I guess, part of the Lickford encounters.
The Reddit, yeah.
Yeah. So what we like to do on the show, even if it is a listener encounter, we like to talk about them, discuss the circumstances, and then rate them on our believability scale, which goes from believable, viable, skeptical, unbelievable. I mentioned those on Stephanie's podcast. I talked about how we do our show, and it took me a minute to think about. I was like, "What's the first one?"
You know, you're kidding.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
Okay.
It was. I got it in like a second.
Okay.
I was like, "What do we do?" Anyway, so our listener submissions. The first story with Candace. Right. So a couple things happened. The first story, the doppelganger.
Yeah.
And then
with the mom.
Yeah. And then the second story, she's strangled. And then the mother is hit in the face with the freezer door.
So you already teased this. So I'm curious what you think this doppelganger is.
So I'm wondering if this is just an angry spirit that's living in this apartment. And it's frustrated. It's upset, but also it enjoys that there's a family living here. And I was also wondering that we didn't see the face because I'm wondering if it kind of used a little bit of like, I want to say magic or mind control, but like it almost like blacked it out in her face. Like
a hologram kind of.
Yeah.
That's more of a science-y thing. But you mean like it made her not remember what the face looked like.
Exactly.
Like a cloaking over it.
Yeah. Like it almost like it could have been anything.
It might have just not had a face.
I guess, but I feel like you'd remember that, you know?
Not if she didn't look up.
I guess that's true.
If she didn't look up and she just saw an extended perfume bottle.
And that's...
Redor? Is it Red
scarier.
Door or is it Redor?
What?
Red Door. Is it?
Is that a perfume?
Yeah, I don't think it's Red Door.
I could not tell you, sir. I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe someone listening can tell you.
Okay.
But that's my thought about that. I wonder if it's just like an entity that is there and it's maybe just lost its identity. That's why there's no face there. But it's also really enjoying that there's two people that it's like almost feeding off of, and it's realizing that they're leaving. And in the final moments there where she's cleaning out the fridge, because that's like the last thing you do. And it like gets her to stand up by opening the fridge a little bit, the freezer a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's just all that hatred just kind of smashes the freezer door shut.
It's calculated, like knowing like
it's a trap.
It's like a chess move.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm going to crack this open to make you stand up.
Yeah. And so that's what I think is at the apartment. And I wonder, I feel like people cycle in and out of there a lot. I feel like they'd have to with that kind of energy in that room, because it didn't follow them. She said that was the last experience they had.
Unless it comes in waves. You know what I mean? Like some homes might not. Maybe it was feeding off stuff. I mean, we're only getting a slice of this life.
That's true.
You know, what their family life was like and everything. But we can't speak to that. For me, I don't think it's a doppelganger at all. But I do think that this apartment or house? Apartment is haunted. So I go believable.
I totally go believable. I think it's definitely haunted. I do think it's. I really do go with this angry spirit idea. So I also go believable. So the next story, Madison's story. So the first thing in the hotel,
the dog thing.
I think it's kind of gnomes.
Biscuit, come on, Biscuit.
I think it might be gnomes. I don't know.
Get down, Biscuit.
Can you think of anything else it could be?
A little ghost.
A little ghost.
A ghost that isn't fully formed.
Oh, it's just head. It's just a head.
Head and arms. I don't know. It's like basket case. It's I don't know. It's bad. I don't.
It's bad. It's just not good.
Yeah. It's just also maybe the whole thing wasn't on the bed. Well, like imagine you're on your knees and it's your torso and your arms on the bed. Ew. And it's getting like sliding closer. You know what I mean? Like, to not like,
oh no,
I'm reaching to kill the gnome theory, but maybe it just wasn't all there. I don't know. Ooh. Either way, unseen, spooky. Best case scenario is the hotel room is haunted by a ghost cat.
Yeah,
I can live with a ghost cat. I'm okay with the ghost cat. Creepy. You have a ghost cat.
I don't know about that, but it is creepy to me. I really don't like that the hotel staff is like, it doesn't always do that.
I hope that was like a 17-year-old that just didn't care about their job and was just like, I'm going to have a good shift.
I hate that.
You should go back up there because it's not all the time that people say it's terrifyingly haunted. Also, okay, this is not true what I'm about to say, but I'm still going to say it. Strangest thing about the whole encounter is the other girl saying, "Get down, Biscuit."
That is silly.
Because it's like that's why I'm almost thinking ghost animal. Because it's like it's kind of like when we were talking about the mom. Like when a mom or family member's in the room and you don't look, but you feel it. You're like, okay, someone is sitting on the couch. Yeah, it's dad, whatever. It's almost like while she was experiencing this thing, like almost think about like a dog or something like nuzzling to like lay down between your legs.
Yeah.
And then the person laying next to you is just like, hey, get down, Biscuit. Maybe she was experiencing something too. She just doesn't remember. Like
that's
she might
a good
not,
point.
She might not have been fully awake.
That very well could be.
Which could still be, it's still very creepy, but maybe she was experiencing like the same feeling, but attribute it to a memory of her dog.
Yeah, I was going to say, that like when someone says like my wife's like, wake up, Charlie. I don't say get down,
Biscuit.
That doesn't make any sense. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Who's Biscuit?
But that makes a lot of sense what you're saying, that maybe she is also feeling something.
Is there a part two?
Yes. Yeah, that's that was the first part. The second part was the house that they lived in with the banging on the walls.
The guy from with the hammer, 13 ghosts. It's I mean,
and also the kid in the room, which
and the door and the
for
brick.
Real, that could just be a door issue, and the kid getting in there
uneven.
She did say that the floor was level, but
it's easy to overlook that when we have so many other things that point towards spooky stuff.
That's right. But I did have a thought about that. Like, what if like this thing like knows about the door, and it like lured this child into the room? Like, why did that kid go in that room? I know they're curious, but
I don't like it, man. I don't like it. And I feel like it put a false sense of it's okay.
Yeah.
Because kids can kind of detect when, this is bad. I don't want to go over there. But then if you like mask it with like a feeling of security and safety and hey, come check it out.
So play a game. Play a game in here.
Yeah, I don't like it. Obviously if it's walking down the hall being loud, like it's not It's not a good presence.
Yeah.
No.
And try to knock off that herb protection sack bag, whatever it is.
That's some Resident Evil health shit right there. It fell down and they're like, level up.
Exactly.
They had a yellow, red, and green herb out there.
Well,
their life got better after that moment.
But the fact also too is all she did when it busted into the room was put her head under the covers.
And then what did she tell her husband?
Go to sleep.
Yeah.
What?
if that happens to me and anyone tells me to go to bed, okay, let me just lay down and close my eyes.
I'm turning on every light in the house. Are you kidding me?
I'm about to take an herb bath. I'm bringing the bay leaves from last episode too. It's just I'm gonna be soaking in herbs.
Yeah, it smelled delicious.
They're gonna bake me. I'm just gonna be a big old Herbie. That's the name, right?
Oh yeah,
I'll become it Herbie.
I do like that they decided to move the next day, so that's cool. That's good.
Is evidence that they truly believe that stuff's going on. But how could you not?
Oh, it's such a scary thought of this guy pounding the walls down the hallway. I'm sure the baby woke up with screaming.
Yeah. We're joking, but the go to bed thing is probably a trauma reaction. Like it's,
absolutely.
You don't know how to, nobody's mentally prepared to handle that situation. Yeah. You don't.
Oh,
again, 100% believable. It's the hotel was probably viable, but then the guy was like, no, let's bump that up to believable.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it doesn't happen all the time, it happened this time. And the house, there's no other explanation unless somebody went in the house.
Right. But I absolutely go 100% believable as well. It totally makes sense to me. Even if the first story might be gnomes.
Well, it would still be believable for you in that case.
That's
you got to keep that neck crack in there. That was good.
Oh, thanks. So story 3. Focusing on the Lickford Bridge.
Lickford Bridge.
Now, I don't know about you. To me, the whole Lickford Man thing totally seems like an urban legend.
Oh, 100%.
It's so, like, there's no proof. There's no factual thing about this.
We only go off proof and factual on this podcast.
I'm just saying, it sounds super like an urban legend.
Dude, can I say, though, like, if I was a villain, like a bad guy in a movie.
Yeah.
And I wanted, like, it's like, this isn't a perfect example, but like the T-Rex or the water, like the thing. And I'm trying to think of like other horror movies, like maybe sometimes like flies or something if it's like demonic. Yeah, exactly. I would love for my warning sign to be just badass lightning bugs. Like, yo, he's around here.
It's kind of cool.
It's pretty, like, it's a little silly, but it's also, and it makes no sense to the story.
Yeah.
Unless those are like the dead slaves that are still slaves in the afterlife.
That might be.
Which is actually really tragic.
Yeah.
But it's kind of badass. I could go with like a gang of fireflies that just, they arrive first and let people know he's around.
Yeah. I do also like that a lot of the story elements match.
It's like, like the music that happens, just Owl City.
In a minor chord.
Oh,
ooh, spooky. Oh, but you know what I mean? Like the handprints. I know we've talked. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast before. How there's a lot of like crybaby
bridge. Every state has a crybaby bridge. Everyone grew up near a crybaby bridge. Mm-hmm.
But I do like the hands because there's a reason behind it, and they say it's the slave's hands, which is like trying to save you, which is kind of a neat idea. But also the red. And the car stalling, the red lightning bug, and then the car stalling is something else that was talked about in multiple encounters.
Well, I'm assuming the red light is the dope fireflies.
The firefly, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Letting people know.
And then the car stalling. I don't know. I don't think that this. I don't know. I'm wondering if Sean did bring this thing back with him to kill his to
kill his car? Is that
to kill the car and scare him? I don't know. But so the encounter, they go to the bridge, him and Lily, after hearing about it, talking about it, and nothing really happens there. They take some pictures,
which they don't have anymore.
Of course not. Why would they?
I believe 100% they were blurry, though. I do believe that.
iPhone 2.
iPhone photos, as long as you're like taking a picture of something that isn't food, it just gets blurry. Like the moon, the sky, trees, orbs, ghosts, all blurry.
Mm-hmm. And so they start driving home, and then The car starts to stall out. What do you think's up with that?
We need to phone a friend. We need to call a car guy and be like, hey, spark plugs. Is it weird that they were?
Yeah. Out of alignment? I don't know.
I think that's the strangest part of the whole story.
I do too. Because they don't just do that.
That's the thing. I can't speak to that.
I have no idea.
Probably not, but also we don't know the history of this car.
That's true. It could be an old car. Things happen.
I think, what story did we do recently?
Many.
Recently, we did a story where I went less than believable because I said I think they freaked themselves out. Was that the alien?
It was Summer's story.
Yeah.
The not deer.
Yes. Summer story, which Summer, we appreciate you because you're a patron and you commented that it was your story and you're awesome. I think they went and it got in their head. I think here's what happened. If the car wouldn't have happened, I think it'd be it. I think the car gave them the doubt that something creepy happened, and then that led to experiencing some things that might have been other things that were interpreted as paranormal.
And Sean's phone did die.
But he even said it was a crappy phone and he wasn't shocked.
Phone. Yeah. So
and he got a new phone the next day. That means you don't get a phone the next day unless you know you're like 6 months past when you should have got a phone.
That's exactly what I was thinking. So I do think you're right. I think they got into their head about this thing. They let the urban legend seep in there. It's scary.
We've all been there. I get it.
And so I do want to go lesson. I do want to go like skeptical.
I'm skeptical as well.
Yeah.
I think cool urban legend, but I think that's what it is.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to the Lickford Bridge episode.
Lickford Bridge.
If you've heard of it before, now you know more about it. If you have not heard of it like I have not, now you know all about it.
Now you know.
About the Lickford Man. And then also, thank you for submitting your personal encounters. Those who submitted today, we appreciate that a lot. If you want to get your own story on the podcast, how would you go about doing that?
You go to believingthebizarre.com. In our main navigation, you'll see submit your experience. Click on that. You'll see a form. Do not be intimidated by the text box. Please submit as much detail of your story as possible. It'll get sent to us and it will eventually make its way onto this podcast and we'll talk about it and we'll rate it.
Yeah, and it actually helps a lot us keep organized if you submit it through the form.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can, people DM us and stuff and it's cool. And we obviously love talking via the DMs, but the best way to organize it is via the form and email.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
And if you like the podcast.
Like the podcast, you do.
If you are enjoying the show.
You can tell someone about it.
Well, yes. If you're enjoying the show and you want others to enjoy the show, what's the best way to do that? I think it's word of mouth.
Word of mouth?
Yeah.
Don't gatekeep. Share with your friends.
Yeah.
Share your music, share your hobbies, share your podcast. It's always good to, because that's like the best things to text out. Like, listen, I'm not alone here. You can ask Ben, you can ask your friend Parker. I'm so happy that Charlie's into football again. Like to have it's about common knowledge ground.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There's something to be said about sharing and appreciating differences with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you should have friends that have different political beliefs, the different spiritual beliefs.
Yeah.
Different favorite colors, like have friends that have differences. That's healthy.
Friends
that's
that like
good.
anime. Friends that don't.
But it's good to have those common, like when I want to go to a punk show, I got these friends. When I want to watch The Walking Dead or a scary movie, or I want to go to a comedy, or I want to knit something, like it's good to have friends. And the only way that you can create those bonds is by sharing what you're doing and what you
beliefs. It does help you form your people, right?
Also, if you're enjoying it, you can go on Apple Podcasts, if that's where you're listening, and leave a 5-star review and say something kind and sweet.
I'd love if you did that.
Like,
but
oh man, that's great.
That'd be great. And if you're enjoying it and you're listening on Spotify, you can go on every episode and you can leave a comment.
Do you know what episode this is? Do you have a guess?
This one right here?
Yep.
Number wise?
Mm-hmm.
232?
Yes, sir. That's D chord. 232.
I guess you're right.
On a tab, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So on this D chord of an episode, I want to shout out some Spotify answers from Creature Feature Volume 4.
Oh, yeah.
So from Daniel, who said, whoa, Tyler, you need to calm down with this bay leaf hate.
What did I say?
You broke my little southern bay leaf heart. You broke my little southern boy heart. And you said, I don't know what it adds to the recipe. Maybe my taste buds are dumb, but I don't know what it offers.
I'm glad that you corrected that and it wasn't his southern bay leaf.
He said boy heart.
It'd be a flavorless heart.
I don't agree.
You gotta put it in the soup and it'll just sit there. And
then Wolf.
Then add all the real spices. And then you can take the bay
pepper.
leaf out. You don't want to accidentally eat it.
We don't. Wolfco said we need a cooking episode from you both, which would be really fun.
maybe we will. Maybe we will.
That'd be a fun
live stream. Yeah, yes. We'll make something.
I'll make lasagna.
Well, it's not you'll make. We'll make.
Oh, together?
Yeah,
I figured you make one down.
I'm just gonna film you. Just call me cameraman Tyler.
I don't know. What would you make?
No. The idea is that we
together?
Would. That's the point.
Okay.
Is we would be collectively.
Okay. Maybe. Ooh, you know what we should do? A white sauce lasagna with chicken.
We should get Ben to set up a bunch of ingredients, like chopped,
like Iron
and
Chef.
They vote.
Oh my god!
And then Ben has. I mean, he used our credit card. Ben gets the ingredients, and we're like chopped. And so you guys got an hour to make it, but we're like not chefs, so it's really bad.
Terrible. Yeah.
It'd be like when they say the Olympics, how you put like the regular guy in the Olympics. It'd be
how good they are.
Chopped.
I'd watch it. Anyway,
you cut the skin off of the bologna, right?
The bologna. August said, I'm going to have to sit down and type out the novel. That is my paranormal experiences because I think they're all connected. So y'all can tell me what you think.
What a tease.
I know. I'm so excited, though. I hope we get it soon. And Finney said, I have a friend named Jordan who's the same age from West Valley, Utah. I should check on him. Also, there's a decent amount of Bigfoot sightings in Utah. A lot of the state is desert, but they also have a lot of forests and mountains, too. It's pretty diverse geographically.
And I said...
You said, please check on him and make sure he's okay.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, not to discount today. The last episode was insane.
I think there's some insane today, too.
I agree.
But thank you, everybody. Remember, if you're all caught up on the episodes and you do want a little bit more, you can do that by heading over to Patreon. We got a ton of content going all the way back to May of 2021. We're constantly putting on new pieces of content. We're on the schedule now. Every single Wednesday and Friday, you can expect something.
It's a lot of stuff.
Charlie and I are going to be in Chicago on Saturday evening.
28th.
The 28th, September, this Saturday.
Yes.
As if you're listening to this in a moderate, reasonable time.
Reach out on Spotify. Don't reach out on Spotify.
No, please don't. DM us on Instagram.
That's what I meant to say.
Or Facebook might be as good as Spotify right now. Hit us up if you're in the Chicago area because we're going to be there Saturday evening, September 28th. So that'll be fun. But you know what? Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast that's going to lease a Ford, lick a bridge, and collect some haunted fireflies. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre.
A podcast as bizarre as you are.